He dropped another Pablo at 5 o'clock this morning. We'll get some of the details in a moment. One of my favorite moments at ESPN, I'm going to have to make a top 5 list at some point of my favorite moments at ESPN, but one of my favorites was Pablo Torre dressed as an orca listening to Jesse Ventura as he talked conspiracy theories. And now Pablo has joined us, which I believe is one of the laziest costumes I've ever seen. He's supposed to be a mummy to pay for his punishment of losing last week, and all he's done is wrap himself in toilet paper. Like, this is
I see the mummy in it.
That's the punishment.
I like it.
I mean, okay, but
Got
he didn't.
another way to wrap yourself up?
How else is this supposed to be
The whole body.
improved?
The whole body. It's supposed to, if you're going to be a mummy, it's supposed to be the whole body.
Theater of the mind, Dano.
And it's supposed to be, a wrap that's not toilet paper. It's supposed to be like ace bandages.
You got 2 bucket punishments today, Dan. Be grateful.
When you were a kid and you wrapped yourself like a mummy, we always used toilet paper.
Historically so.
Thank you, Zaz.
So Pablo.
Print media, Dan. I thought you were a fan of print media.
He dropped another Pablo at 5 a.m. He is now at this point harassing the Clippers PR department at 2 o'clock in the morning. They cannot sleep because of what they have to wait for him to drop. So what
I feel bad. Can I just say, I feel bad for the Clippers PR department.
Leave it there. Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
I feel bad for the Clippers. If I can apologize to the Clippers communications department, we send them detailed questions.
You can clear your face.
We send them detailed questions the night before. They're the first ones to know what we're reporting. And it's just not an easy job. I mean that very sincerely, actually. It's just like not an easy job they have. I don't think they have all the information. And they are out here trying to do their best. And it's just, I feel genuinely bad as someone who interacts with PR people.
Yo, can you come up with a new strategy for that toilet paper? You keep doing the same thing and it keeps falling
so
right
now
in front of your face.
Now it's too much toilet paper.
I
Not
don't know,
enough toilet paper. Now it's too much toilet paper.
Do something different.
He's right. You keep just like moving it up, it falls down.
I got a bunch of questions, okay?
Is one of them, is it 2-ply?
This is the, I don't know if there's half ply, but this feels like what that is. This is
it's cheap toilet paper on top of that. It's not, that is toilet paper that does not look like it would be comfortable to use.
There you go. No, we're good now.
Let's talk about what it is that you reported this morning. But before we do that, let's check in with Billy Gill, who is presently doing something that Kawhi Leonard allegedly, reportedly never did. He is planting a tree in order to save the earth. He is using both hands. Can we get a microphone out to him so that Billy can give us an update? Look, this seems like it's almost complete, Billy.
Yeah, roots in the ground, Dan, as they say in the planning community. We're pretty good here. I just got to kind of fill this in, and then I got to attach the Velcro straps to make sure this thing grows straight. But this little guy here is going to live a long, healthy life, I think. Hey, Pablo, it's Billy.
That's a cool hat, Billy. It's a cool hat.
Thank you. It's a Wrangler. Rose's grandfather gave her $100, and she spent it on a cowboy hat, and she brought it for me to wear today.
It's the American dream, as far as I can tell.
Crushing it, Danny.
Good work.
I believe he's from Guatemala, so maybe his American Guatemalan dream.
The Guatemalan dream is also worthy of our consideration. In the power ranking of dreams, the Guatemalan dream doesn't get enough credit.
Pablo and
I'd like to clear this up. Excuse me, just a moment. I'd like to, for the record, say I am not saying Guatemalan dreams are lesser than American dreams.
Pretty
as
sure
Pablo
that's what
is
I heard.
implying by
That's
his
what
comments.
I heard.
How about you zip it up, since you just said an idea came from your heart, which is impossible?
You don't know what's possible or not possible inside this body.
This soda drinker's body. Pablo, what did you report this morning?
I got Roy to be the lawyer in a courtroom reenactment of an exclusively obtained deposition transcript in which Joe Sandberg, the man who has pled guilty to wire fraud in the Aspiration case, the man who has allegedly defrauded Steve Ballmer, was asked questions about Steve Ballmer. We had you, Dan, play Joe Sandberg. We had Roy play the lawyer for Joe Sandberg. And I don't think that's the biggest story in our story. It's just my favorite part, that Roy is in the episode.
Well, how about the biggest? How about the biggest part of the story for people who are not quite interested in Roy's acting role in this particular episode?
Don't look at me.
Roy crushed it. Yeah, there it is. Steve Ballmer invested $118 million in 18 months into aspiration. Him alongside the Clippers, alongside Team Ballmer, let's just call it. Dennis Wong, previously established co-owner of the Clippers. Steve Ballmer's college roommate, the CFO of the Clippers. We have documentation from him in which it is clear that he signed off on the pre-purchase of $21 million in carbon credits, as Mark Cuban had hypothesized, actually. A lot of this episode is admittedly about what Mark Cuban said would have happened if Steve Ballmer was absolutely guilty of cap circumvention. And then I just spent my life proving that actually he did the things that Mark Cuban hypothesized. So yeah, a lot of carbon credit purchases 2 weeks before, in fact, they were due yet another Kawhi Leonard payment. So, just a lot of that.
Zaz, why are you and Chris Cody laughing right now?
I don't know. I'm a little embarrassed right now. Am I the only idiot that doesn't know what a carbon credit is?
You're watching it in the bottom right corner of your screen. Billy is creating a carbon credit. A carbon credit. That's a great question.
So it's meaningless.
Well, allegedly, a carbon credit, like everything in the world, I mean, trees, you, me, like we have carbon in us. Our activities emit carbon. And so what you do is you create something, you plant a tree whose very existence, of course, as a recycler of air, can actually take carbon out, right? That's what trees do. They put out oxygen, they take in carbon. And so a carbon credit is literally the planting of a tree, would be the very 5-second messy summary of a, frankly, now increasingly scrutinized business that was at the core of aspiration in this episode and Steve Ballmer's alleged circumvention of the NBA salary cap.
Am I going to have to fire the Reaper for coming in here without a mask? Like, am I going to have to discipline
Peter the Mind Man. That was not on.
Nothing was on
Not there,
screen.
and also was wearing a mask.
I don't think that the Reaper
Was wearing a mask just
can
because you
appear
saw the Reaper's
anywhere.
hair.
I saw who the Reaper
Stop
was.
ruining everything.
Not everyone
Perhaps.
knows
Maybe
who the Reaper is.
take some ownership of what you just did. It wasn't on camera. We were trying to move the show along.
Pablo, what would you tell people like Zaslow and Billy who are alleging that the league's not going to do anything, that Silver's not going to actually punish the Clippers?
Yeah, I'm going to say this in the current form that I currently exist in, which is probably a miscalculation by me, because I think this question hinges on whether the NBA takes this reporting seriously. And I mean that. This is a story that has, frankly, astounded me in terms of just the interest from people. If you were to think about just the stories that I've looked into, I didn't expect this one to be as big, and I don't think the NBA did either, frankly. And so I say all of that to say that the NBA is a wildly reactive organization. Keep in mind the salary cap, CBA circumvention, the rules are not real laws. They are things adjudicated by the commissioner. And so the question the commissioner is going to ask himself is, how small can I make this problem before it becomes a problem for us? And every episode, this is the 4th episode we've done, in an ongoing investigative series, just indicates that the scope of this is genuinely unprecedented in terms of how elaborate it is, in terms of the implications for what people should have known but did not act upon, allegedly. And so the question of how could the NBA escape this? Frankly, it depends upon how much people care about the story, because the journalism, I just can't stress this enough, despite what I am currently doing with you at this moment. The journalism could not be more serious in terms of how real the paperwork is. Documentation is the story of investigative journalism, and we have the documentation. When you don't have the documentation, in the absence of, for instance, the note that says, I circumvented the cap, signed Steve with a heart emoji, you got to go to human sources, primary sources. I've given now an seemingly ongoing parade also of that. People who went on tape, people who are now signed, the CFO of the company, former CFO, the chief legal officer, the CTO, they're now on the record disputing the idea that Andre Cherney, the co-founder of Joe Sandberg of Aspiration, what he said, which is that this was not a no-show deal, that this was something that he doesn't remember the salary cap being involved in. Those 3 guys have co-signed their reporting. So, I think it's just a matter of, are you a serious person? Are you a serious league? Even though you're being questioned by a person who is wrapped in half-ply toilet paper.
I think Adam Silver has given off the impression, which is not, it's not just an impression, it's a fact, that he works for the owners, right? He works at the pleasure of the owners. And if Mark Cuban is defending Steve Ballmer the way he is, even with all the, evidence, the reporting in front of him, and he's not even an owner anymore. Like, what makes you believe that the other active owners don't feel the same way.
Well, he's a 27. He corrected me on this when I first interviewed him. He's a 27% owner of the Mavs, Sass. He's a minority owner of the Mavs still. But you're right. The question was last week when Adam Silver goes in front of the Board of Governors in New York City at the St. Regis Hotel on Wednesday, with Tuesday committees happening before that, in which Steve Ballmer, by the way, is the chair of the audit committee. The chair of the audit committee of NBA owners is the man under this investigation. And so the question of like, how do the other owners feel? I can tell you, I've spoken to 4 who think that it's absurd that this is something that the NBA plans potentially on not punishing proportionate to the evidence. And it's about the evidence. It's not about me. It's about the evidence I have surfaced. And Dan, by the way, Dan added to the reporting on this in the episode in terms of an owner who said before that meeting and during that meeting, Steve Ballmer gave us the sob story. And I should be clear, the sob story can coexist with the scam story. I keep on saying this. 2 things can be true. You can be defrauded by the person you partnered with to deceive the NBA. That's why this is so cinematic. There is pain. There is suffering for Steve Ballmer. There's also the most unprecedented scheme, according to my reporting, in the history of salary cap convention.
Pablo, does there have to be punishment laid down on the Clippers and Steve Ballmer for all of this to make you feel like your reporting is validated?
I don't think it's about, frankly, not to sound like a politician, I think it's about the audience. It's about the fan base. It's about the presumption that when you watch sports, fair play as codified in the rules they call cardinal rules, that those things are being enforced. Like Adam Silver in every statement he's given, and I've listened to all of them, talks about how he is a steward of integrity, not just brand integrity, but competitive integrity. I think the question I would have as somebody who cares about the sport, as a caretaker of the sport, is does this undermine the legitimacy of our game from a purely what does this look like to everyone who wants to care about it, invest money in it, compete in it, buy teams in it? And then, Zaz, you get all the other stuff, right? And the other stuff involves, by the way, yes, the economics of the league. So people may not realize this, but capture convention is really meaningful to these owners I've been speaking to, not simply because it is a rule that they are trying not to break in this way, that now, according to my reporting, Steve Ballmer has broken in this fantastical, over-the-top way. The thing they care about is also the valuations of teams. So the economics of an NBA team, it's really premised on how much do you spend, and therefore how much should this asset be valued. What Steve Ballmer, the richest owner in all of sports, one of the 10 richest people in the world, is proving that he's proving that he's spending so much more, again, $118 million in 18 months on aspiration, with the timeline corroborating the payments of this crazy Kawhi Leonard $48 million deal. That's where it becomes, wait a minute, so maybe these things aren't exactly the streamlined financial instruments that the NBA would otherwise like them to be.
Billy, you have your hand raised. What would you like to ask Pablo?
I have 2 questions. One, in terms of like the story, what was the other 70 million for? So if it was funneled for Kawhi's 48, what was the other 70 for?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the thing that people need to understand as we go through this is that Steve Ballmer invests money into aspiration. Aspiration spends all of it virtually immediately. And this is an enormous part of following the money, and the sources that I spoke to provided documentation. And as well, by the way, as the documented financial filings, disclosure forms that all prove that everybody else saw what was happening, seemingly except for Steve Ballmer. As in, Aspiration got tons of money, $300 million in the fall of 2021, $50 million from Steve Ballmer, to Billy's question. In the fall of 2021, what happens after they get that money? They spend all of it before Kawhi Leonard's first payment in June of 2022 is due. And so the cycle here is Steve Ballmer puts in money, Aspiration asks for more money, right when Kawhi Leonard must be paid. And so when I speak to the alleged defrauding of Steve Ballmer, this is how it can coexist, is that he was kind of trapped according to the sequence of events and according to what the timeline might suggest in this relationship in which he knew he had to support a company that was guarding the most embarrassing secret that he had. And so they had leverage, according to the reporting, over him in that regard. Although, of course, the degree to which he knew and when he knew remains frankly, a crucially important topic for my investigation and the government's.
Billy, hand raised, second question.
Yeah, can you explain carbon credits to me? And are they similar to NFTs or crypto? Like, how does this work?
Already asked
and how
that
do
question.
I sell them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just made a carbon credit, Billy. You just made it.
Yeah, but what is it worth?
Well, it's worth, so typically, right, what you just did, people in the open market of carbon credits, they pay 5 to 10 cents for that, what you just did. Aspiration.
Take me 3 hours.
I know. Aspiration was charging $1. Like, that's the margin of, like, the carbon credits business. But your point, by the way, like, what the CFTC is looking into, the federal agency that they regulate commodities, is whether a carbon credit is actually just a commodity, not unlike a stock. To your question, is like, what is this? An NFT? Is it a financial instrument? This is an active debate in government. Like, should we regulate these things like they are stocks? Because what they really are, according to all of the reporting I've done, they're a lot like widgets, right? They don't actually exist. It's the action of you planting that tree.
This tree is real.
Well,
No, this tree exists. I can confirm that.
that's a lot more than.
How do I
some
make
people
money off of this is
confirm.
what I'm asking you. Like, crypto's at like 100,000. How much is this carbon credit going to get me?
Seems like we're not paying very well, Meadowlark Media, if he's been working for 3 hours and we're going to give him 10 cents. That seems
That's just the market rate.
below minimum wage here. I've got a bunch of
Like
questions.
our internship.
And we don't have a lot of time left. So I would be flabbergasted and stunned, given the evidence that Pablo is providing, if the penalty wasn't hugely stiff, because you saw what happened with Deflategate. It's not as egregious as this. Whatever the hell it was isn't as egregious as this. Like the idea that you would have these rules and circumvent them this flagrantly, Zaslow, like this flagrantly, I just don't see a circumstance under which the penalty isn't enormous.
I'm totally with everything that Pablo is saying, that you just said as well. I just don't have any faith in Adam Silver laying down the hammer. I mean, Pablo, he got up in front of everybody the other day and said he's never heard of aspiration. That wasn't taken out of context, came right out of his mouth. And then a couple of days ago, he tells everybody, oh, no, I meant I never heard of this scandal. It's bullshit.
Look, the thing that we have in the episode as well is that, to Zaz's point. So Adam Silver, without any ambiguity, says, frankly, I've never heard of aspiration in any way. There's really no wiggle room around like the clarity of what he says. He says he's never seen anything related to an engagement with the Clippers. He says that as well, or Kawhi Leonard. And then I get the contract, the actual contract for the $300 million founding sponsorship deal that the Clippers signed with aspiration. And it says right there, in the writing of it, that these deals must be expressly approved and submitted to the NBA. And so in front of a stage earlier this week, Dan Roberts at Front Office Sports asks Adam Silver about this thing I had just tweeted out. And then you get this statement, which if you go and watch the video, it does not, I think, fit into a plausible interpretation of what he had said before. So the question then is, why did Adam Silver say the first thing when he said it? Why wasn't he actually aligned with what he says the second time? These are important questions speaking to the credibility of how a league is governed, let alone the fact, by the way, that this whole company was seemingly vetted by apparently no one, including, and I want to make this point again, and it's a serious one to some extent. The reason why fraudsters keep on using sports is because they expect that if you're up in the signage of an arena, if you're a founding sponsor, if you have the naming rights deal of a building, it means that sports, which is so flush with cash and lawyers and respectability, it must be true that sports has vetted you and therefore you can trust them. We see this over and over and over again. You saw it with FTX in Miami. We see it now again with Aspiration. You saw it with Enron in Houston. It happens for a reason. And the question that the leagues now have to be asking themselves is, when do we actually fulfill the terms, the implicit terms of this trust that America has given us? Because right now it's a one-way transaction and a lot of people are getting scammed.
A lot of people are searching for what Pablo has on this story. I would also say to everybody listening to this, if you want to check out what Pablo has done with Semaphore or Ethan Strauss, you could get more explanations for what Pablo is trying to do in general with Pablo Torre Finds Out, selling old media basically to the internet and young people on the internet. One of the funny things about this story is the idea of people who can buy everything but can't get what it is that they want. The idea that Steve Ballmer couldn't get Kawhi Leonard to do the things that he needed Kawhi Leonard to do. Can you explain to me how much money Ballmer has more than the other owners, Pablo?
He could buy out everyone else. He's the richest owner in all of sports, and it's not close. He has $150 billion. He is the boogeyman when it comes to any contest in which money is the weapon. And what Steve Ballmer has done is, I think, live out this parable about sports, in which sports has more than ever the richest people in the world interested, for reasons, by the way, that I just alluded to, but also because of sincere fandom. Steve Ballmer is a hardcore basketball fan. I interviewed him once when I was doing a story about Harvard basketball, and he told me about, and this was, of course, many moons ago now, he told me about how he was a scorekeeper, charting assists and rebounds. Like, that's the kind of hardcore basketball sicko he is. He's cared about youth teams. He's coached youth basketball. And so the question is, when you have everything, you have all of the money in the world, but the thing you want the most is something that, because sports is governed by fair play and rules, you cannot simply buy, right? It's one of the few places left in civilization where you can't just buy the thing you want. You have to earn it. You got to win it in a fair competition. The only thing resembling meritocracy we have left, frankly. Steve Ballmer cannot do that because in the NBA, there's a bleeping salary cap. And even when you circumvent the salary cap, you might end up with the one superstar who looks like Michael Jordan when he's healthy, but every other time you play with him or try to get him to play, he's a guy who seems to be rebelling against your mission specifically. It is maddening. It is infuriating. And it's also why this story is, to me, like one of the great parables of wealth in America through the lens of sports.
Thank you, Pablo, for your reporting and your work. It is tireless. It is exhaustive. Pablo Torre Finds Out is where you go. You mentioned, Pablo, that, the words infuriated and everything else, and I'm looking at the Reaper again.